Thank you, Karen. Welcome, everybody. I appreciate you guys coming out to hear me babble on for a little bit. So hopefully we can give you guys some good pointers and give you an idea for how these patterns are going to lay out in the next couple days. We're going to talk about two patterns tonight. We're going to start with the level 1 pattern, which shows tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., I believe. And that's pattern 7 for that class. And so we'll kind of roll through that pattern a little bit. And then for those of you that are also going to show in the level 2 or level 3 reining, which I believe is on the 4th of August, then we're going to talk about the prelims pattern, which is pattern number 11. So we won't be talking about the level 3 finals pattern. That'll be for another day, but we are going to try to talk about these two patterns that are going to be coming up here in the next couple days, and maybe talk a little bit about show pin strategy and things like that as it pertains to these patterns where you're required to run up and down the middle. So, we go to a lot of horse shows throughout the year, a lot of reinings where, they might choose a pattern like 6 or 8 or, 9 or 10 for the finals where you don't actually have to run up and down the middle 3 times in a row for the stops. So this is maybe a little different than what some of you have encountered at your AQHA shows or your NRHA shows. These are patterns that, good patterns, but maybe not as frequently used in some cases. So we'll talk a little bit about the nuances and things that I like to do in these patterns to try to keep them as credit earning as possible without getting into any trouble. So we'll start off with pattern 7, which is the level 1 pattern for tomorrow. And pattern 7, if you don't know, requires you to run in, stop. That's okay. Karen feels bad because she forgot to plug the Horse and Rider on-demand video subscription platform that I'm part of, which is a sponsor here at the 2021 AQHA Youth World. So any of you guys that are looking for some additional educational information, or maybe don't have a full-time trainer, maybe keep your horse at home, or someplace where you don't have access to regular coaching, the Horse and Rider On Demand video subscription platform is a great opportunity for you to go on there and subscribe. You can get content for reining, there's content for ranch riding, there's content for working cow horse, but they've got a lot of great content providers on there. I'm one of them. Ryan Rushing is on there, Peter DeFreitas. So we've got a lot of guys that are NRHA professionals and successful that are contributing content. So it's a great place to go if you want to look at some instruction from home or from your horse at home. So anyways, back to pattern 7. Pattern 7 requires you to run in, and I assume, Karen, this is going to be the gate that's going to be open tomorrow. Is that correct? Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Pattern 7 is over in barn 8, so none of that matters, so forget that. Today we're going to just go with this gate that's already open. So pattern 7 shows over in barn 8, so you'll obviously have to run in through the gate. It requires you to run past the 3rd cone down there and stop. Roll back to the left, and then you're going to run back to this end of the arena, also past the 3rd cone to avoid a penalty. Stop, you'll roll back to the right, you'll run down the center of the arena one more time, past the middle marker this time to avoid a marker penalty. You'll stop and back up to the center of the arena, and then you can hesitate before you turn 4 times to the right. You can hesitate again, and then the pattern asks you to spin 4 1/4 times to the left. It's always a good idea to hesitate. Again, I think before, during, and after your spins. And then you're going to depart on the right lead in pattern 7, and you're going to go into your large fast circle on the right side. So you'll do 2 of those before slowing down, doing a small slow circle. You'll change leads, and now you'll be on your left lead, and you'll perform 2 large fast circles on the left lead before slowing down, doing your small slow circle on this side, and then you're going to change leads again, and you're going to continue around this circle, and when you get to the top of the arena, you're going to turn, you're going to come down past your center marker one last time, stop, and complete the pattern. So this is a pattern that, again, I don't see this pattern used as frequently as some others. So when we do have to run up and down the center in a pattern like this, one thing that I'm always mindful of, and one thing that I try to encourage my students to do, is run long as much as possible. The pattern says that you must get past that third marker in order to avoid your penalty, but it doesn't say that you can't go a little further past that. I personally think that's a good idea if your horse can handle that situation, because it gives you more space to work with after you roll back and get ready to do your second stop down at this end. So in other words, I'm just going to kind of lope down here. We'll pretend like I ran through that gate. We're going to come in. This will be our first maneuver. Now the pattern says you can stop after that third cone. I'm going to try to go a little further if I can. I'm going to stop and I'm going to roll back here to the left. And the reason why I want to do that, it allows me to get straight and make my horse wait a little bit, and then I can go ahead and build speed, and I've got plenty of room to work with. Now, if I can, I'm going to go long on this rundown again for the same purposes. I'm going to stop here instead of right at that third marker. That way I know I got past it with plenty of room to spare. Okay, I'll roll back to the right, and because we're not going to go as far for this one, I still have plenty of room to work with on the length of this arena. Because this third stop says you only have to go past your middle marker before you stop and back up to center. So the logic there, in my mind, is that the more room I give myself to work with, the better for my horse and the better for myself, the better that I can show that maneuver off to the judges, in theory. So I'm always a proponent of, being able to run long when you have to go up and down the middle 3 times, so that, again, you have plenty of room, get rolled back, get straight, allow that horse to rate speed a little bit before you ask him to run. If you stop short and you have to roll back, you don't have a lot of time to get going before you have to stop again. So this allows you to give yourself a little bit more room to work with, to lay down a nice pattern, keeps your horse thinking long and not thinking short, so that they don't anticipate as much on the next, 2 or 3 stops. Okay, so once we've done that, we've run and stopped 3 times, we've backed up, now we're at the center of our arena in pattern 7. What is it? Somebody tell me, what do you think the first thing my horse is going to think about doing right now? Roll back, exactly. So we just rolled back twice, and now we're in the middle, and the pattern asks us to spin 4 times to the right. So if I'm showing this pattern, I'm going to take my time right here, make sure that my horse is settled in. Okay, I want to make sure that I start this right turn nice and easy, because I know he's probably going to be anticipating, especially if we've carried quite a bit of speed and high degree of difficulty to those stops and through those rollbacks. For me, and this is just my personal opinion, I might even try to take a step forward before I start these right turns, just to, remind my horse that maybe we're not going to roll back, that we're actually going to go ahead and start the turns. And I'm going to start those turns easy. We'll pretend that was 4. I know it was 5. But we're going to go ahead. I'm going to start those turns easy, and I'm going to let that horse commit to that right spin before I ask for any speed. Now, if you can do that without having to wait, then I think more power to you, and that's great, and that's a high degree of difficulty, and it's certainly credit earning. But we're talking about the level 1 class here, and so the level 1 class was designed for those exhibitors that don't have as much experience as some of the others. So if that's what you're here for and that's your situation, then I feel like the best thing you can do when you show this pattern tomorrow is be clean and correct first. You can always add degree of difficulty and speed after that, but if you're not clean and correct and staying out of trouble, staying out of the penalty box, then it's going to be really hard for you to be successful, and it's going to be hard for the judges to reward you. So I'm putting an emphasis on correctness for this pattern. Now, if you can do, both, again, I think that's great, and I think that that certainly deserves to be rewarded. But as I tell my students, you can't win anything if you're taking penalties. It's really, really hard to be successful if you're incurring penalties or if you're in the, the minus category on a judge's scorecard. So again, I said all that to say this. I really want to be patient when I start this right turn, because I know this horse is probably thinking rollback. So for me, I'm going to make sure I hesitate. I'm going to take 1 step forward. That's just my personal preference. You see that horse kind of locks up right there. And we're going to go ahead and let him commit and find his cadence before we actually ask him for more speed. Okay. Here's where I'm also going to say, you know, the center of the arena is a place of anxiety for a lot of reining horses in my experience. So what I try to do when I work on my horses at home and when I show a reining pattern is try to take as much of the anxiety and anticipation out of that equation as possible. So after I turn 4 times to the right, I'm going to let that horse stand here and just relax as best he can, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and turn to the left after I've allowed him to kind of decompress for just a second. Take your time, okay, same thing, you know, be patient in these turns. We're going to do 4 1/4 to the left. Okay, and we're going to be facing this center cone hopefully when we stop turning. So again, I want to try to make this a very relaxing place as much as possible, and a lot of horses, you know, reining horses, like I say, we all know that they develop anticipation and anxiety sometimes. So you know, I want to try to be smooth and be you know, as mindful as I can so that this horse stays as relaxed as he can. This area where I'm in right here now, if you think about it, a horse has to, you know, spin, they have to change leads, they have to change direction, they have to speed up and slow down. So for me, I'm going to try to be smooth, quiet in this area. I'm actually going to walk a few steps forward before I start this next maneuver, which is your large fast circles on the right lead. I'm going to go ahead and get into our right lead. I'm just going to kind of cruise around here easy. Looking up, looking for my center, guiding my horse, making sure that he stays on this circle right here. Okay, again, I'm looking for my middle because your judges want to see you get back to your center. I'll give this horse the cue to slow down. Of course, I'm not going very fast, so he's not going to slow down a whole lot right now. But there's my small, slow circle, and then I'm going to change leads and go into my left circles over here. Again, same thing. You know, I'm probably not going to build speed right as soon as I change leads. I'm going to wait a stride or two, and then I'm going to go ahead and ask for some speed. I'm looking up, I'm looking for that center again, making sure I get back to the middle. Slow down when I get back to that center. Make this nice round small circle if I can. Oops. Yeah, you can see right there, that's a perfect example of what I was trying to talk about earlier. As soon as I set that horse up, he thought lead change right away. Okay, so that's a situation where, you know, you want to try to be as smooth and correct as you can. Of course, you have to, you know, go ahead and complete the pattern, but that's an area where anytime we can, you know, be correct there and not encourage a behavior like that, we're going to try to do that. Now, obviously, when you're showing, you know, and you want to win something, then you've got to do what you have to do and show through that. I'm going to go ahead, lope off again. Come around this end. Turn and build. And again, you only have to get past that center marker. I'm going to go a little further, well, just to give my horse some time to line out, run straight. I backed up there, but you do not back up at the end of your pattern. Make sure that you do not back up on that last stop because you've already backed up after your third stop, so that will put you off pattern if you take too many steps back at this last stop. Does anybody have any questions about all that? No questions? Yes, ma'am. Well, I certainly, her question is, for those who couldn't hear, she said, I like to go further down the arena, and she wants to know how far do I think is too far, that the judges are probably not going to, appreciate that. And certainly there is a fine line there. I think if you're fencing your horse or you're coming incredibly close to those, the end of that arena, I think that that's going to be hard for the judge to reward that. I think they do want to see some control and some precision included in your pattern, and I think if they feel like you use that wall too much to your advantage, as if you were fencing your horse at home or something like that, then you're probably less likely to get rewarded for that. So certainly, I'm not encouraging anyone to encroach on that barrier there. I don't think that there's anything written in the rule book, that says you have to stay a specific number of feet from the end of the arena, but I would certainly encourage you not to get, all the way down the length of the arena. I personally think that once you get past the marker, it's fair game after that, but especially the way these markers are set, if you look in this arena, of course we've got our yellow cones, but we also have these nice bright orange markers that they've put on the wall. And these end markers are set fairly close to me, to that center marker. So I think it's a nice luxury to have. And I'm not sure what they look like over in the Barnet arena, but hopefully they're set somewhat similarly, and it gives you a lot of room to work with.
Our youth officer, Spencer Harden, is here, and he's going to start passing the bucket.
Sure.
I hate to interrupt you, but I'm all about the Pro Horseman endowment benefiting the past.
Karen whips us if we don't talk about the Pro Horseman Endowment Fund. So she wants me to let you guys know that they have the Nutrena buckets that are getting ready to go around, and Spencer Harden is going to be in charge of carrying our nice green bucket there. And I'm sorry, it's an AQHA bucket. But anyways, it's a Nutrena bucket disguised as an AQHA bucket. This, of course, benefits the Pro Horseman Crisis Fund, and I'm sure everybody kind of has an idea of what that's all about. But I'll just tell you real quickly that in 2007, I had a horse turn over on top of me and shatter my arm, and it put me out of business for about 6 months. So this is something that, had it been in existence at that time, really would have been beneficial for me. And so it's something that I really care a lot about. Something that, I'm sure all you guys have trainers, or if you don't, trainers and people in our industry who encounter unfortunate events like that. And this is a great program that helps benefit these professional horsemen in times of need. So anything you can give is much appreciated. Okay. Are there any other questions about pattern 7 before I move on to pattern 11? No questions? Okay. We'll run through pattern 11 real quick. This is a pattern that we have seen at the Youth World the last couple of years. It's a good pattern as well. Also requires you to run up and down the middle of the arena. But before you do that, you're going to do your turns and your circles, and then you're going to finish by running up and down the middle. So the first thing you're going to do in pattern 11 is you're going to have to jog into the gate, or jog in through the gate, I'm sorry. So a lot of you may jog in by choice in other patterns, because that is allowed. The rule book will say that you are allowed to walk or trot to the center of the arena. This pattern is the one exception. This pattern requires you to jog to the center of the arena. You are allowed to break to the walk once you get there, or you can stop. You must do one of those two things, but you are also required to trot into the center. So we'll pretend like I came through that gate just now. Again, you will be considered off pattern if you're not trotting once you hit that gate. I'm going to trot to the center of the arena. We're going to stop. Okay. So pattern 11 asks you to start with the spins, and I believe it's left spins first, so they want you to do 4 spins to the left. I'm not going to ask my horse to spin very hard, but we'll talk about this again. This is an area where these horses most likely know that they're about to be asked to do something, so I'm going to try to instill some confidence in my horse when I'm here. Hopefully I can get him to stand and stay relaxed so that he can start the turn nice and easy. We'll go ahead and ask him to do 4 to the left. Whoa. Okay. Next maneuver for pattern 11 is 4 spins to the right. Pretty self-explanatory. Again, I'm going to take a nice long hesitation in the center if I can. I'm going to let this horse step in here and commit to the turn before I ask him to do too much more. You can see right there, mine gets a little worried, so I'm just going to kind of go on around here, let him lock in. But of course, the pattern does require you to do 4 spins to the right. Again, good long hesitation, and then I'm going to go ahead and walk forward. Now, this pattern is a little different in regards to the circles, okay? This pattern asks you to lope off on the right lead, but it asks you to depart into a small, slow circle. So what I like to do personally is I like to try to take a step or two forward if I can, lope off straight, and then steer in. You see a lot of people that, just kind of steer their horse into that right circle right away, and there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. I personally prefer to do it a little differently. I feel like it's just a hair more correct to go ahead and lope off straight and take a slope step or two straight towards that center cone before steering in. But you should absolutely do whatever allows your horse to perform the pattern to the best of its ability. After that small, slow circle, we're going to go ahead, we're going to run around here and do 2 large, fast circles. Again, I'm looking up when I come around this corner here, making sure that I hit my center. Okay. Now the pattern asks you to change leads and go directly into a small, slow circle. I think that's a situation where, you have to develop a strategy for it, and it depends on what you're most comfortable with or what your horse is most comfortable with. A lot of times I like to slow down first for a stride or two and then change leads if I can. But, some horses do the pattern a little better if you actually change leads first and then slow down. So you guys know your horses better than I do at this point, but, I think it depends. That's something that you really have to evaluate and have a game plan for, in regards to what is going to allow your horse to perform that maneuver the best. So are you going to ask him to slow down and change leads? Are you going to change leads and then slow down? And I think that's something that you guys should be developing a plan for between now and the day we show. I'll get back on my left small, slow circle here. I'll go ahead and build some speed, of course. Looking for my center right there. Okay, when you perform your second lead change, you do not have to go into a small, slow circle. So you're going to go ahead and change leads. And then I personally want to slow down over here and try to shape up these rundowns that I'm about to do, because right here we're going to have to turn and come down the center of the arena and do exactly what we did in pattern 7, which is run past that third marker, roll back, run past this third marker, roll back. Now we're going to only have to get by the center marker, but I'm going to go a little longer. And we're going to back up at the end on this one. Okay, so the important things to remember on pattern 11, you must jog in. It's not optional. You must jog in, and then we've got 4 spins left, 4 spins right, right lead departure into a small, slow circle, 2 large, fast circles on the right lead, change leads into a small, slow circle on the left side, left lead, 2 large, fast circles on the left lead, change leads again, and then we're going to turn the corner at the top of the arena, and we're going to we're going to run up and down the middle, roll back, stop, and back up. Any questions about all that? Yes, ma'am. Sure. I think that's a great question. Her question is, how much time is appropriate to spend in the center, especially if you have a horse that's a little nervous and has some anxiety? And I think that's, that's really important and a great question to ask. I don't think the judges want to feel like they're having to wait all day for you to settle your horse. So I do think that there is, some sort of happy medium in that situation. You certainly want to give your horse the opportunity, to settle if you can. I think it's the best thing for the horse. But of course, as we talked about, some horses do have a lot of anxiety and they are going to be, a little worried in the middle. And at some point, I do think that, in order to keep the judges engaged and, make sure that they don't feel like their time is being abused, then you do have to go ahead and continue with your pattern. So I think you do the best you can, and if it gets to a point where you feel like, you're not making any progress, then it's probably time to go on. So, any other questions?